Repeating that, the Tuesday, April 16th, 2024 meeting of the Board of Zoning Appeals is now called to order. Sherry, please call the roll.
Mrs. Baker?
Here.
Mr. Frauenberger?
Here.
Mr. Harrelson?
Here.
Mr. Post?
Here.
Mr. Wolke?
Here.
Mr. Sreeser?
Here.
Mr. Stanley?
Here.
All are present. Our first order of business is for 2024, the election of officers for the Board of Zoning Appeals. Start with nominations for the president.
I will move that we continue the current officers, specifically Mr. Frauenberger as chairman, Mr. Harrelson as vice chairman.
Is there a second for that?
Second that.
Okay, we have a second. Any other nominations? Nominations are closed then. All in favor of that slate of officers, Mr. Williamson and Mr. Frauenberger, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Any opposed? Okay, none opposed. So be it. The next order is acceptance of the minutes of September 19th, 2023. Any comments, corrections, additions? It was a long, drawn-out minutes. So.
Well, I know it's been a long time ago, but to the best of my recollection, this reflects it, so I'll move we approve.
Second.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. All, again, by roll call, all in favor?
Aye.
Says aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Minutes are approved. So, before us today is a variance request. Let me get my papers here. At 2311 Patterson Lane West for the following: a 22-foot variance from the required 25-foot front yard setback for the installation of a fence. We will have, as part of our process, staff reports, comments from the audience, any comments, either pro or con, for the variance. If you're going to speak, we ask that you stand and take an oath. Okay. I, please state your name.
I, Raymond Wright,
swear that the testimony that I'm about to give
swear that the testimony I'm about to give
is the truth as I know it.
is the truth that I know.
Thank you very much. First order is the staff report from the City of Troy. State your name for the minutes, please.
Yep, Taylor Bruner, zoning inspector for the City of Troy.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, so the city has received a variance request for the placement of a 6-foot privacy fence in the required front yard setback of 25 feet. In order to erect the fence structure, the following variance has been requested: a 22-foot variance from the required 25-foot front yard setback for the installation of a fence. On March 15th, 2024, city staff received a fence permit application for the property referenced above. During the review process, staff notified the applicant to make revisions as the fence would not meet Section 52107F of the City of Troy Fence Code. A denial letter was sent out on March 19th, 2024, per the applicant's request. Staff did try to work with the applicant to give them options to avoid a variance. Those options included: revise the plans to show a proposed 42-inch open-style decorative fence, such as wrought iron or picket, as required by 52107F. Revise the plans to show the proposed 6-foot privacy fence beyond the required 25-foot front yard setback. Staff recommended that the privacy fence run straight back off the northeast corner of the house to meet this requirement. They could also utilize landscaping methods, such as arborvitae, to create the privacy effect along Stanfield Road. So Fence Code Section 52107F states, after the effective date of this legislation, no person or owner of a property shall erect or construct a fence with a height greater than 42 inches above the ground level within a front yard setback, as defined by the City of Troy zoning code, or within a corner side yard of a corner lot, or within a rear yard of a through lot, except in the case of double frontage lots where no access is permitted to the more heavily traveled roadway. Only decorative open style fences such as wrought iron or picket shall be permitted within a front yard setback. The submitted application identifies that the proposed 6-foot privacy fence will encroach 22 feet into the required 25-foot front yard setback, of which does not meet section 52107F of the City of Troy Fence Code. Moving on into standards, section 52107S5A1. Staff feels that the property in reference has no condition of which is unique. All corner lots are subject to the same requirements for front yard fences. A vast majority of corner lots in this district have open-style decorative picket fences. In this case, there are multiple alternatives the property owner could do to meet the City of Troy Fence Code. See Exhibit B for examples of compliance. Before you, right in front of you, there's the exhibits B and B1. B will just basically show a street view of the neighbors that complied. Number 2, staff feels that the variance request would adversely affect the rights of the adjacent property owners. 3 properties, 2300 Patterson Lane West, 2286 Patterson Lane East, and 2295 Murphy Lane East, have all complied with the City of Troy Fence Code. You can see Exhibit B and B1 for the reference examples of compliance. Number 3, staff feels that the variance request is not necessary as there is no hardship that exists and the property owner has the ability to meet the requirements of the City of Troy Fence Code. Number 4, staff feels that the variance request would have adverse effects on the factors listed above due to the items listed in Standard A2. Number 5, staff feels that the variance request would create a material advantage for the property owner. The intent of the fence code is to only permit 42-inch open-style decorative fencing in a defined front yard setback per 52107F. Other properties in the immediate vicinity have met this requirement: 2300 Patterson Lane West, 2286 Patterson Lane East, and 2295 Murphy Lane East. Moving on to B1, staff feels that there is no physical surrounding, shape, or topographical condition of the specific property that would create a practical difficulty or unnecessary hardship upon the owner. The subject property is a corner lot with no topographical conditions or unusual shape of the lot that would inhibit the ability to have a privacy fence in the rear and side yards. The fence code only has the restriction in the front yard. Several nearby properties have similar lot shapes and have complied with this requirement. Number 2, staff feels that the request for the privacy fence in the front yard is exclusively the desire of the owner and no hardship exists. Number 3, staff feels that the variance request would be materially detrimental or injurious to other properties in the area. A 6-foot privacy fence in the front yard setback would be incompatible with the neighborhood and could be seen as aesthetically unpleasing. The form and characteristics do not align with the proposed fence. Number 4, staff feels that the privacy fence would have adverse effects on the factors listed above. The privacy fence would potentially create a safety concern due to the close proximity to Stanfield Road. Additionally, property values may be affected due to the aesthetics and incompatibility with the neighborhood. Therefore, it is staff's opinion that a practical difficulty does not exist on the property, and the proposed 6-foot privacy fence would provide a material advantage for the property owner. Nearby properties have complied with the standards of the fence code as shown on Exhibit B and B1, and the variance request is purely a desire of the property owner. Staff recommends denial of the proposed variance request as the request does not meet the standards for a variance as set forth in Section 52107S5. The property owner's predicament can feasibly be obviated through some method other than a variance as described in this report and observed from nearby properties. Conclude my report.
Questions of staff? We may have some afterwards. Thank you. Anyone else want to speak either for or against the variance? Sir? Welcome. Please state your name and address.
All right. Give me 1 second here. My name is Brandon Wright. 2311 Patterson Lane West is my address. First off, I just wanted to say As a Troy citizen, husband, fiance, overseas veteran, I just personally want full use of my property for the safety, security, and enjoyment of my children. I can attest to some of the questions that he has asked. First off, I do have some evidentiary support for the safety of the intersection, which is typical. That's why, through my research, a corner lot has a front yard setback on both sides, for the side yard and the front yard, which I did not know when I moved to Troy. But I do have a photo evidence showing the special circumstance of my yard where I have a bulge, and I believe what's called the easement out there, that doesn't obstruct any view coming from any angles. If you would like to see that, could I pass that around? Or
Sure.
which way? This way? So that is the view, actually a couple yards back from the stop sign. On top of that, I do have multiple photographs. I took about a 10-minute drive through Troy itself, and there is many yards and privacy fences that violate the front yard setback, if you would like those as well. A couple of them are slightly different circumstance. A few of them are the exact same circumstance as a corner lot, but they all have the same common factor in which they violate the front yard setback. I don't know if it was previously through a variance or anything like that. However, I just wanted to provide that evidence to show that there are many across town, and that was only about a 10-minute drive on the south side section in between McCaig, the historical district, and the warehouse. So I also wanted to answer the zoning variances, the A through K. So section A, whether the property in question will yield a reasonable return on whether there can be any beneficial use of the property without the variance. In my eyes, I don't think there is, because it restricts my use, the privacy, and the safety of my children playing outside. There is heavy traffic on Stanfield Road, north and south, along with heavy foot traffic. And there is so many people in the multifamily units right behind me, and kitty corner northeast to me. We have, a lot of people walking their dogs constantly up and down the street. I've had kids come on my property in the middle of the night and jump on my trampoline, which then I would be responsible for. So a 4-foot fence wouldn't cut that, because they come down from the north. There's a couple of them, and they would easily just hop my fence and jump on my trampoline. Whether the variance is substantial in section B, in my eyes, it's a minimal variance. As you can see, if that bulge on the picture that was passed around was actually out on the whole property, then I really wouldn't have an issue with the setback. It's just the fact that that front part of the bulge is good enough, but it cuts back. So I could be in standard with it, but I can't because the bulge cuts back. In section C, whether the essential character of the neighborhood would be substantially altered or whether adjoining properties would suffer substantial detriment as a result of the variance, that would be no. If y'all haven't already received letters from my neighbors stating that, then they should be coming shortly. I already spoke to both of the neighbors that it affects. I don't know how it affects Murphy Lane. It also doesn't affect any of the runoff water, any of the safety utilities, or anything of that nature with the city. In section D, I just answered that, whether the variance would adversely affect the delivery of governmental services, it would not. It doesn't impede any of that. Section E, whether the property owner purchased the property with knowledge of the zoning restrictions, I did not. I had to become a Google expert really quick on all that stuff, just so I can use my property with my children. Section F, whether the property owner's predicament feasibly can be obviated through some method other than a variance. In my eyes, I do not believe it is. I'm all about safety. I have some conditions from stuff overseas that I would prefer to have my children safe. I need to be safe. I need my family to be safe. I need my windows to be secure with a privacy fence, and things of that nature. I'm very particular about that, and my alarm system doesn't cut it in my eyes. Section G, whether the spirit and intent behind the zoning requirement would be observed and substantial justice would be done by granting the variance. I believe yes, because the spirit of a typical corner lot with the dual front yard setback as the side yard and the front yard is for the obstruction and safety of that intersection. Whereas I have that big bulge coming out, it doesn't obstruct anything because the road then cuts back, and that picture clearly states yards back from the stop sign that there's no safety issue with that. They can see you can see clear all the way down. Section H, practical difficulty asserted by the applicant is not similarly existing on nearby properties or commonly occurring within the city. To be honest, I didn't really know how to answer that. There are many privacy fences that violate the setback in the city, and those pictures were just some of the notions. There's a few corner lots in there and a few other lots on main roads that have less foot traffic than mine. And then Section I, the practical difficulty was not created by the acts, omissions of any current legal or equitable owner or by the unlawful acts of the prior owner. It's just there by me. J, approval of the requested variance will not materially damage the public health, safety, morals, convenience, comfort, prosperity, and general welfare of adjoining properties will not suffer substantial detriment if the variance is granted. It will not be a detriment. It actually adds value to the neighborhood, as privacy fences are popping up everywhere in this day and age, especially in our subdivision. So yeah, it will add value, comfort, safety, and it doesn't affect the adjoining property. I've seen so many privacy fences along the sidewalk. In my eyes, I brought it back a couple feet so it does not affect people walking and say their dogs and stuff like that, because they're always utilizing my lawn, but I still brought the fence back a little bit so it doesn't inhibit that, because there's a lot of families that ride bikes and stuff like that. If a kid falls, I want him to go on the grass, not the sidewalk. So that's why it's about approximately 3 to 4 feet, approximately 3 feet from the sidewalk itself is where I want the fence. That way it doesn't affect the local traffic. And then Section J, approval of the requested variance will not, I already answered that. K, the requested variance would not create any material advantage which practical difficulties do not enjoy. I do not believe this provides the material advantages, as the property is already mine and I am the one requesting that. In my eyes, yeah, it doesn't create any practical difficulties from individuals walking, people walking down the street. Other individuals simply just did not request to have a variance. And then Section L, the variance requested is the minimum necessary to alleviate any practical difficulty created by the literal language of the zoning code. I believe it is. That would be the minimum necessary for it, so I can fully enjoy my property per the Troy, Ohio code. I also did want to notate that the fence code refers to the defined setback in the planning code, but in the definition section of the planning code, setback is not actually defined. I wanted to put that in there. It is not a definition. It is just kind of implied as a 25 feet rule, but the word setback is not defined as it is in other cities such as New Carlisle, Vandalia, or Piqua. And that is all I have to say. I want this for the safety of my children. I want to be able to play soccer outside without people constantly walking down commenting. I don't want kids jumping on my trampoline in the middle of the night anymore. Like, it's a liability for me. My insurance would have to cover it. And that is all I have right now. Do you have any questions?
Mr. Chairman, I've got a question for staff. The petitioner provided a number of pictures of what he claims to be violations. Has staff had a chance to look at those?
Not through his examples, but I can tell you, I mean, obviously the origin of our fence code was, the early 2000s, right? So I'm not sure when the fences originated, but obviously throughout town we have tons and tons of nonconformities. So if Mother Nature was, destroy that structure, I mean, they couldn't, rebuild it in the exact same spot where it is. So I mean, there could be fences that, don't meet our code, but it doesn't mean that they could keep it and maintain it, because once they remove it, you're removing that structure. Now you can't replace it in the exact same spot. Now you've got to come up to the current standard. So we call those nonconformities if they don't meet our standards, but doesn't mean they can keep it, over time. It's just a matter of time before, it gets removed or altered, then they have to come up to current standards. But I'm not sure, and every property is different in its own way. Every property is zoned differently and has different setback requirements. Some fences even too, obviously like schoolyards, for example, we have, there's some schools with obviously fences that, for the protection of the children and stuff that they have, but there's exemptions in the fence code, section, T, 52107T, that allow, government institutions to have,
Like Kyle School.
Yeah, Kyle School. So, it's for the safety of the institution and all that.
When did the fence code change?
Two
When was
thousand,
the revised one?
2010 was when the fence code was originally adopted.
This, the one we're dealing with now.
Yes, sir.
So any fence prior to that could have been under a different code.
We didn't have a fence code prior to that. That was really free reign. There was not a permit requirement.
Yeah, so we had chicken wire fences for
Well,
a long time.
If I'm not correct, recognizing a lot of those properties are in the Southwest Historic District, which those houses are,
There's a few of them, correct, however, there are some few brand-new fences on there as well, because I wanted to mitigate that.
yeah, I mean, there's
second,
hundred-year-old houses in
Yeah,
the Southwest Historic
there's-
District who have fences since the 1950s or 40s.
Yeah, and there's some in there, however, there's other properties with a brand-new white vinyl fence, and there's a couple other new ones in those documents that I have presented. Is it all right if
Is it the customary practice of staff to contact the adjoining property owners
So
on something like this?
they're notified because of the variance request, the legal notice is that we notify them of the nature of the request.
Okay.
So, and they were notified. We did not, to my knowledge to date, receive any.
I have the neighbor, I brought in the neighbor notice, how many households we notified of the request. I mean,
Had you received any responses then from them at all?
No, we have not.
You should be receiving one or two in a couple days from them.
Well-
I have confirmed with them when they received it.
Did you bring anything today or anyone today to testify at this hearing?
I did not.
Okay. Anything else? As part of our process then is a motion to move to executive session to discuss this.
So moved.
A second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second.
They're on
All
there.
right, we're ready.
So we're returning from executive session. Do we have a motion to return officially?
First.
Second?
Second.
Second, we have. All in favor, roll call, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The meeting is back in session. We've had our discussion, heard the testimony on the granting of the appeal and the opposition to the appeal. Do we have a motion before us?
I move a motion to grant the appeal.
Okay, so do we have a second?
Wait a minute, are we granting the?
This is
That-
the,
No, I guess maybe to
I can explain this.
The practice that we've had has always been to make a motion in the affirmative, notwithstanding how we may feel about it.
Right.
So, Mrs. Baker has made a motion to approve. I'll second that on the basis that that's how we do things.
Then you vote whether to grant it or not.
Right.
So we have a motion to approve the 22-foot variance from the required 25-foot front yard setback for the installation of a fence at 2311 Patterson Lane West, Troy, Ohio. Will you call the roll?
Mrs. Baker?
No.
Mr. Fromberger?
No?
Mr. Harrelson?
No.
Mr. Post?
no.
Mr. Wolke?
No.
Mr. Sreeser?
No.
Mr. Stanley?
No.
So the variance was denied, 7-0, as a denial. We send you on your way. Hopefully, some of the alternatives will be of use to you, and we proceed accordingly. So, thank you very much. Do we have any other business before us?
We do not, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Anything for the next, anything next then on the agenda for us? Okay. We have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
We have a second. All in favor? Aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Okay, thank you. Adjourned.